Okay, let's go to science. So we are taking our brain assessment today. We're going to draw and label the neuron with the 2-ink method. And we're going to intro the eye today. We only have 2 more. We have the eye and the ear. And then we're done with our anatomy. So that will be great. And we'll read about the eye. So at first, I need you to show your mom your best drawing of your respiratory system, your digestive system, your heart, your skin, your skeleton, your brain, and your neuron. So label the ones that are the best and show her those so she can check those. And then we'll do the assessment at the end, and drawing the label of the neuron, we'll do that at the end as well. But we're going to talk about the eye first before we go into that. So let's go to page, let's see, let's go to anatomy in the back. I thought I had these written down, but the page number I wrote down on my notes is not. It's not. It's on page 143. Let me make a note of that. 143 in your guide. So let's get our guides out and let's go over the eye together. Okay, so we have 12 parts of the eye. Let's go. I'll start on the right. We have the iris, the aqueous humor, the cornea, the pupil, the lens, the ciliary body, the retina, the choroid coat, the sclera, the optic nerve, vitreous humor, suspensory ligament. Okay. If I said, mamas, if I said any of those, that I know a couple of you are nurses and have that medical background, and you're going, okay, this is actually said, I would love to know that. If I butchered one of those, let me know, mamas, let me know that. And I can send that out, because I'd like us to have pretty close to the technical pronunciation as best we can. Not to be perfect, but I'd like to get us pretty close if we know it. Let's do that. Okay, so 12 parts to the anatomy of the eye, and then you're going to, that's your new piece of information this week. You're going to continue on your neuron, drawing that. Jackson has said that one has been his favorite. It has been the easiest to draw. So I'm glad. Lots to label, but the easiest to draw with it. It was pretty with its lines and stuff. So hopefully you found that as well. And maybe you didn't, because we are definitely all different in how we see things. But you're going to focus this week on the eye and the neuron. But do not leave off the old information that we've used. Keep your respiratory, your digestive, your heart, your skin, your skeleton, your brain, and that together with your new stuff, so you can keep it in there. I am going to have Jackson draw one of each of those just one time this week, just so he can keep those in his brain, because I don't want him to lose that. And then keep going on your definitions and defining those. When we were meeting as a class, I had them not just on flashcards, I put them in Quizlet as well, so we could have a class definition. We were all kind of on the same page for definition, but since we've been out, I have been lax putting them on Quizlet. I have just been using Jackson's flashcards with everything else that's gone on. I just haven't been able to jump on and enter all of those in Quizlet. So I may get to that, I may not, but as long as they're defining and can have a simple definition, or however complex you want them to take that definition, of these parts of the anatomy, when they define those, just so they can have some type of working knowledge of what that particular piece does in the eye or in the neuron. Keep that up. Okay, we are going to read More Than Meets the Eye. We're going to read about the eye in this one. And then I'm making some notes on my email that I send out to make sure I have that exactly right. And then we'll get to our assessment at the end. Okay, so I am reading on page 32. And this one goes to 35. There's lots to say about the eye, so I gotta watch my time, so make sure we don't go over. But while I am reading, I would like for you to have a blank piece of paper with your guide and looking on the anatomy of the eye, and then drawing that, just kind of getting familiar with those. If you finish, because I have a little bit longer section, draw it again, okay? Because we're just gonna kind of focus on the eye today. You can add some color if you want. That would be fine as well. Just kind of focusing on the eye during this time. Alrighty, here we go. More Than Meets the Eye, about the eye. The eye, claims one influential neo-Darwinian theorist, is stupidly designed, is what he says. My first reaction upon reading his comment was frank laughter. If the eye doesn't impress a biologist, what will it take? The eye is, in fact, an organ of unprecedented sensitivity, precision, complexity, and beauty. If there is no wonder left in your spirit, perhaps the first clue of that lamentable state can be found in a careless disdain for the eye. Darwin himself did not share the stupid design sentiment, though. The eye to this day gives me a cold shudder, he confided to a friend. To suppose that the eye, with all of its inimitable contrivances for adjusting the focus to different distances, for admitting different amounts of light, and for the correction of spherical and chromatic aberration, could have been formed by natural selection seems, I freely confess, absurd in the highest possible degree. That's a quote from Darwin. What we've talked about and what we've learned about just in your entire kind of your educational span from now, not just in Challenge A, but how he just brought about this theory of evolution. Even he quotes to say that when he looks at the eye, he shudders, and he freely confesses that for it to have been formed by natural selection, it is absurd to the highest possible degree. So, wow. And this before modern scientific techniques actually revealed the deeper chemical and electrical complexities involved. So this is before actually the science came in and revealed all of this other things about the eye. He was pretty amazed. Okay, first light encounters the cornea, the primary focusing structure. It then passes through the iris, which controls how much light is allowed to enter. Aside from its ability to constrict or dilate the pupil, the iris also gives the eye its blue, green, or brown color. It has 266 identifiable characteristics and is the most data-rich physical structure on the body, far more individual specific than a fingerprint, which has only about 35 measurable characteristics. So from 266 characteristics to the fingerprint, that's 35. One maker of an iris scanner for computer identification purposes claims that the biometric structure of the iris are so unique that there is only 1 in 10 to the 78th power chance two people's irises will match. So again, this just kind of goes into disproving the theory that it all just happened. Once through the cornea and iris and pupil, the light passes through a lens for additional focusing. Next stop, the retina, a thin lining in the back of the eye. The retina is comprised of photoreceptor cells that are light sensitive, converting the image into electrical signals that can in turn be interpreted by the brain. In contrast to a camera, the eye takes pictures continuously and develops them instantaneously, a process we couldn't stop even if we wanted to. On the retina are 120 million rods and 700 million cones. The rods accomplish dim vision, night vision, and peripheral vision. The cones are for color vision and fine detail. So this is a hint. C is for cones and color. Each eye has 1 million nerve fibers that electrically connect the photoreceptors to the retina. Connect the photoreceptors in the retina to the visual cortex of the brain. In this center, comprising only 1% of the brain cortex, the image is reconstructed in a way that we see it. Vision functions within a wide spectrum of light availability. The dimmest conditions permitting sight vary from brightest conditions by a factor of 10 billion. Under dim conditions, as in night vision, the rods predominate and life becomes black and white television. Under bright conditions, the cones predominate, permitting precise color detail. The sensitivity of the retina's photoelectric cells is such that as little as 1 to 2 photons of light can trigger a visual signal in each cell. In comparison, a strong flashlight emits 10 to the 18th photons per second. God, however, does not require photons for his vision, and darkness cannot hide us from his gaze. For darkness is as light to you, as the psalmist reminds, he that forms the eye, shall he not see? Under very low light conditions, it can take the eye 60 minutes to fully accommodate. If the amount of ambient light suddenly decreases, the eye begins a process of adaptation. Within a few minutes, details that at first were not visible begin to clarify. Under conditions of darkness, this process of adaptation continues for as long as 1 hour. If you are stargazing, for example, and wish to observe fine details of the Milky Way, don't turn and glance at a streetlight, because once you do, it will be necessary to begin the low light adaptation process all over again. On the other hand, adaptation to bright light conditions require a much shorter time frame, usually minutes. The performance and complexity of the eye are awe-inspiring, with the following comparison by a biomedical engineer between the retina and a supercomputer. While today's digital hardware is extremely impressive, it is clear that the human retina's real-time performance goes unchallenged. Actually, to simulate 10 milliseconds of the complete processing of a single nerve cell from the retina would require the solution of about 500 simultaneous nonlinear differential equations 100 times, and it would take at least several minutes of processing time on a Cray supercomputer. Keeping in mind that there are 10 million or more such cells interacting with each other in complex ways, it would take a minimum of 100 years of Cray time to simulate what takes place in your eye many times per second. Other perhaps less impressive but interesting facts about the eye are: the human eye can distinguish millions of shades of color. On a clear, dark night, we can see a small candle flame from 30 miles away. Tears are salty because they are derived from the salt water in the circulatory system. Tears are sterile because they contain bacteria-destroying enzymes. On average, we blink automatically about every 2 to 10 seconds. In a lifetime, we blink over 400 million times, and add one more blink for every time we are photographed. The cornea has extraordinary sensitivity to touch. An anesthesiologist tests this corneal reflex to assess depth of anesthesia prior to general surgery. The eyes are a window to the soul, and a very elegant window at that. By gazing into our eyes, other people can discern much about us. There is more involved here than just cones, rods, and photons. Recall the bright, joyful eyes with which your child beams upon you when you bring him to a new toy, explains a German science writer, Gerhard Stegun. And then let the physicists tell you that in reality, nothing emerges from these eyes. In reality, their only objectively detectable function is continually to be hit by and perceive light quanta. As Stegun implies, life is more than physics. We all know it, and God knows it. We are all born with the same optics, but that doesn't mean that we all see. Spiritual eyes are an entirely different piece of equipment. When Jesus came and walked among us, some saw him and some didn't. They all had the same eyes, yet some were spiritually blind, ever seeing but never perceiving. There is a day coming when all shall be made clear, for at that time every eye will see him. From my own personal experience, let me assure you that if we have eyes willing to see God, God will not hide his glory from us. Okay, so I've got to go quick. So I want you to take your assessment of the brain everything put away, blank paper, and then I want you to draw your neuron using the 2-ink method so you can see what you need to work on. Okay, I'll see you later.